Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and today I'm fresh back from MICE, and we are exploring a new series focused on a changing coffee industry. So let's do it. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Coffee Newsbreak, your place for condensed global coffee industry news, events, and resources posted daily. Find Coffee Newsbreak on Instagram at Coffee Newsbreak or check the show notes for details. So I've just come back from MICE, and it has confirmed to me a lot of things about the industry. It was a wonderful time, and a massive hello to all the people who I got to say hello to from overseas and from within Australia. Thank you for taking time to chat with me on the record and off the record. Very interesting conversations. We are in a changing coffee industry, and there are a lot of amazing things that happened at MICE. There are a lot of concerning things that happened at MICE, some that I can talk about today, some of them that I would have to wait for some time before I'll be able to talk about them. But we're going to be talking about a changing coffee industry, and in this episode of the series, it will be a MICE wrap-up. In the coming episodes during this series, we're going to be talking about the specifics of how the industry is changing, what you need to do to get ready for that and adapt to it, and what comes next. We have been talking about this change coming since March 2021. It is finally here. And as I said, MICE confirmed that for me. So we'll start by talking about the things that were awesome about MICE, and then we'll go on to some of the concerning trends that we saw at MICE. First of all, the best part of MICE. For the first time in 3 years, we got to see a lot of people for the first time again. This is the first time MICE has happened in 3 years. People were there and people were excited. People were happy to see each other and hug old friends and new friends and make relationships and nurture old relationships that they hadn't been able to connect with in the past. And this was fantastic. That was the big plus about MICE this year. The second thing was, for me, I got to have really amazing conversations, long in-person conversations, none of them recorded, but all of them is what has really informed my understanding of where the industry is at and the challenging times ahead. The third thing that I thought was really great is that people are ready to build. People are very drunk on the recovery phase of the pandemic, and it's left people a little optimistic and short-sighted about where our industry is at. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's not a fantastic thing. I think it leaves people with a few blind spots, but it was really wonderful to see people after a couple of years be really excited and motivated about the opportunities that lie ahead. A lot of the things that I saw that were pretending to be innovative are going to prove, in my mind, completely irrelevant given the challenging times ahead. There were very high-profile products that were featured that, in my mind, were there to sway people and convince them and trick them. But we're going to talk about that in a coming episode, talking about coffee cults. Anyway, the next thing that was really great about MICE is that people are excited about the future. And some of those people, or some of the businesses, particularly the businesses that are excited about the future, the interesting thing about it is that when I pulled the executives aside, there was very clear concern about the future. So we have to be careful, and I'll talk about this when I talk about the concerning stuff. We have to be careful about the marketing side of the industry. And the final thing that I think was great was that people really pumped for the competition. I'm happy to see people happy. Whether I agree with comps or not is irrelevant, but it was really wonderful to see people excited and motivated about something that they had worked hard on. So that was really, really wonderful. And all of those things were fantastic to see. It's always a great thing when you get people together and everyone's happy and everyone's excited. Now, the not so fantastic stuff about mice, and I'm calling this the concerning stuff. There were old tricks that were being played on people who were attending mice, and this is the old tricks of marketing. I call it wizardry and fuckery. And shout out to everybody who had conversations with me about wizardry and fuckery. I'm not going to name names of anyone because all the conversations that I had were deeply intense and very real and very off the record. So people who were perhaps needing to present one perspective to the public were able to have a conversation with me and be really frank about where they see the future of the industry going, and particularly for their products. A lot of people are presenting a facade that this product is really exciting and this is going to change your coffee life and this is going to be the game changer for your business. Folks, I want you to think about, regardless of what people are trying to convince you of, if this thing is really going to do that. And we're going to visit that in a future episode in this series when we talk about coffee cults. But there was a lot of people trying to convince people, particularly business owners and baristas, that they should buy things that they really don't need. And so that was the concerning part. People really didn't care that they were tricking people. Old tricks, right? And it's kind of disgusting to me to see that doesn't change. But that's just me. Other people love being fooled. We live in an industry where people love to be, not just an industry, in a time actually, where people like to be around popular people. And so what you saw was popular people promoting products that didn't really change the game for anybody, but they were professing to change the game. So on top of that, there were people pushing those agendas by openly lying about the products that they were presenting. Again, I can't get into details about how I know that, but I do know for a fact that there are a lot of people out there pushing new products and new coffees and a whole bunch of new shit that was just total lies. And that for me was really disappointing because people were so excited to be at MICE and to see old tricks being used on people who were just happy to be there and be around other people for the first time. Just disappointing. Probably the most concerning thing for me was the perspective that I got when I was speaking to producers. The producers that I spoke to are very concerned about what they've seen at MICE. We had all of these fancy products being pitched to a whole bunch of excited people, and I saw very few conversations being had and very little attention being paid to how we're going to fix things for the producer. The uneven distribution of power through the supply chain was more prevalent now than I've ever seen it, at a time where there is so much going on economically and geopolitically in the world that is going to impact and is impacting producers. I saw little to no conversation being had about producers. And that was supremely disappointing. And the reason things like that get to happen is because of the trickery and fuckery of brands who have you hypnotized by who they are. And so those same brands tend to even that out by saying, we help the producers do this and we help the producers do that. More lies. So that leads me to the final concern that I had at MICE. And the final concern was my main objective going to MICE was that I was going to listen. And I was going to listen to how many people I could speak to that were aware that there is a tsunami coming. And I used this term specifically when I was at MICE and at all the satellite events that I did go to around MICE. And what was really interesting was there was a clear divide. And we're going to talk about this tsunami in an upcoming episode, but there are a lot of factors, economic situations, geopolitical situations, supply chain situations, all of these things that were happening that are coming. And as I said, we have been speaking about this stuff since the beginning of March 2021. And I wanted to go and litmus test how many people were preparing for that versus how many people are convinced that the pandemic's over, that's all we've got to worry about, and everything is bright and rosy moving forward. Concerningly, the majority of people are not focusing on the tsunami that's coming. They are focused on the fact that we're in recovery. They are tired from the past couple of years. They only want to be optimistic. They are not preparing for what's coming. But the interesting part about it was that executives that I spoke to, people who are higher up in the food chain, but not owners of companies, they're well aware of what's coming. And they anticipate that the challenging times ahead will be marked by a specific event in this industry, and we will know when this specific event happens. And I'm going to talk more about that in an upcoming episode. So that's my wrap up of MICE. I'm so happy that I went. I had a wonderful time. There was equal amounts of things to be super joyous about and equally concerning about. Whenever you're around people that are happy to be together, it's always a wonderful thing. So again, if I got to say hello to you and you stopped me to say hello, I want to thank you. There was a lot of love in the room for Map It Forward and for me. Equal amounts of not so much love, side eyes from people who were pissed at the obvious things that we talk about, that wizardry and fuckery that goes on. There was a lot of politics in the room. I don't care. But if you did get a chance to say hello and you did show some love, thank you. It really meant a lot. Stay tuned for the next episode, folks. This is going to be a really enlightening series filled with the latest that we got from really influential people all over the spectrum. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.